Mike. How's it going today?
And we're live.
Yeah, live.
Good to see you, Frank.
I feel dead.
Long week?
Yeah. No, it's actually been a really good week. We're only halfway through the week, technically.
Yeah, right.
But it just keeps going on, so what does that even mean?
Yeah.
We create a beginning and end, a beginning and end, a beginning and end, a beginning and end.
Well, it's funny. We think in a linear perspective, so that's how the mind works. You know,
Yeah.
we're so conditioned that there's if there's a start, there's a beginning.
Yes. Yeah. There must be an end.
Speaking of, where are we going to start tonight?
At the end. We're going to start in the present moment.
I like that. There's no better place to hang out than the present moment.
Let's talk about the concept, the principles of understanding, like, why we're here, so to speak. And everyone's got their perspective on it, and all perspectives are relative to where you are in understanding. But I like to think that the understanding of, using an analogy based on why we're here or what the universe gave us to get through this time and space, right? If you look at the infinite universe we're in, we're like this little stretch of that infinity sign, if you will. But I understand that life is infinite, but I want to figure out how to work in this finite space and why I came here to Earth, in the physical plane. So it's not about like, oh yeah, life is infinite, so just don't worry. But I don't want to worry. At the same time, I want to know how to operate within this finite space that we call physical reality. And I believe that the universe is given as an instrument to play. And once we learn how to play it, we can actually create the music in which we came here to create. Where it seems like earlier in my life, it was like the universe gave me a radio and I was only dictated by the control in which station I went into, certain genre of music I played, but I had no control of the music. It was playing towards me. The DJ actually, it was up to DJ on the particular station what music was rolling out as I listened.
Break that down more black and white. Are we talking the emotional roller coaster?
Well, yeah, we're just talking about life itself. We think life, there's one way of looking at it, like we're given a radio and that's a form of instrument, but all we do with the radio is we're on the sideline of life, so to speak. We're listening to it.
I want to make it clear for the listeners, that we have that station, and in the beginning when you're looking at, or you think the radio, whatever it's playing, whatever it's coming at you, whatever's happening to you, you're not in control of.
Yeah.
But what Frank and I are getting at is you have the ability to change that station.
Yeah, but that's even still a finite aspect of it. What I'm talking about is then if you're given a guitar or a drum set, you're actually creating the music. Now, there's a place where the radio fits in to get different variants of different type of music, but we're talking about the universe actually gave us an instrument, not just a device called a radio. And as we wake up to that, all of a sudden, the universe gave us 12 notes and an instrument, whatever it may be, a guitar, piano, drums, flute. Doesn't matter what it is. Whatever's drawn to you, you play that. And I'm just using this in a metaphoric way. And when you realize that you have very little control, but you do control the knob on the radio, but when you have a guitar, say, and 12 notes and obviously different, understanding different structures in that notes, you have an infinite possibility even on the finite 12 notes that you're playing. And then you're in charge of creating the perspective and the music in which you want. You're not just listening to something that's been given to you or fed to you. All right? And then when you do that, then you can utilize the radio as a feedback to, but don't use it as a guidance system. Just go within. But you understand the structures within this plane that we're talking about, that little piece in the infinite universe in which we're talking about, this physical world, this dense universe. And when I mean dense is what creates matter. It's not really a physical, tangible thing, but it's low density frequency that this allows me to put my hand through this table, where higher frequencies there's nothing blocking. And we're coming here. So how do we operate in the world? It's not just about sitting around thinking that, we're infinite, so it doesn't matter what happens. Empirically, it doesn't. But relatively, it does. It matters relative to what you're doing that day. And when you came here, or you chose to come here, so if you chose to play a game like tennis, you ought to know the rules and how to play. But if you didn't know, you would just be swinging at the wind. you probably wouldn't even know what side to do, which side to swing, you know? So we're here to discuss that. And the universe had given us instruments. Everyone's instrument's different, but yet we're all given this plane of field of 12 notes, if you will. Yeah. So every human being has 12 strands of DNA. All right. So we're all operating with that. And to me, my 12 strands of DNA and how they're responded to my reactions or the way I open up and let go and go back and forth will have a different output than Mike's output. But then when we talk about it and collaborate it, it's not to say which one's better, because in collaboration, we want to actually understand and expand beyond. Like, oh my God, this is happening to you too. Yeah. Hey, try to do it this way. Wow. That just expands in the field in which we're understanding this minutiae of an understanding we can, but it continuously expands in the infinite possibilities. But yet it's still a finite place in which we're in on the physical plane.
I love that way of describing it, because when you look at yourself in a different scale like that, and you look at our humankind existence in the grand scheme of the universe, the amount of galaxies, what we're experiencing,
like
the fact
a speck of dust on this table.
Absolutely. And to take it back a step, let's kind of go over relativity. Let's break it. Use the example of the boat, because I think that is very clear way to help people understand the law of relativity and how perspective is not only a mind type of thing, but it's how you experience reality.
Yeah, so if I was on the shore, like we were talking about earlier, if I was on the shoreline and saw a boat going by, I place into the statement in which the ground I'm standing on is still. Therefore, the boat must be moving. Mm-hmm. So relative to me, the boat is moving. Now, if you're on the boat, and you can actually easily say, and there's somebody on the shoreline, as the boat's moving, relative to the boat, you are not moving. So therefore, you can actually say the shoreline's moving. So relative to you, the person on the shoreline's moving. Now, because most human beings agree that water is in the movement and the earth is not, we can go deep into that to actually reverse it. But I'm not here to do that. But we're talking about the relevance to understanding in life. People argue over things that don't relate to them. So that's why you never get to a point. But like in football, to get a first down and to advance into the keep moving and have the offense use the ball, they have to gain 10 yards or more in order to keep the ball on their side. Well, that's relevant to the game of football, but not to the game of tennis. That has nothing to do with tennis. So often we get caught up in this infinite universe, and sitting here, we're infinite beings, but yet we're in this finite place. But people will argue things that aren't even relevant to the other person because they don't see it. They don't step out of it. But there are relevant things within the field of any type of... So within sport, everyone playing football understands the relative to the 10 yards advancement in order to get a first down. But not in tennis. It doesn't apply.
Talk about that high school experiment. With them dropping the ball.
Oh, all right.
Because I love this visual concept.
That's a visual. But
this is helpful, so people will kind of... Yeah. Because like often we'll say, "Oh, I saw it, so therefore this is real." It, like, for example, the court of law. You go into a court of law, and we have people stand up and give testimony, and they say, "I was here, I saw this," and that holds a weight. You try to take that in a science world, and you tell a scientist, "Oh no, I saw this with my own eyes," when you're talking about an experiment or something happening, and they'll laugh. And they'll say, well, that's why we have tools that measure beyond our sight, beyond emotion. What you saw that day could be different based on the amount of water you drank, what time you slept, what happened to you that day, where you were emotionally.
Yeah.
All of these things factor into what you saw. And so scientifically speaking, or I should say from a scientific perspective, saying you saw something with your own two eyes and witnessed it, if you saw it a week later and you were in a different state, you would have perceived what you saw in a much different way.
Yeah, and
that's what I want us to get at with the law of relativity.
Yeah, well, that actually is perspective onto it. So the law of relativity is, in other words,
But this is a good parallel when you explain the dropping on the book. You can get an idea.
Because when someone sees something, and they could say, I saw a red car drive by. Now, what in a court of law? But what did you feel about the red car? That's perspective. But that's scientifically proven that I saw a red car on Tuesday. But so relativity and perspective are different. So in other words, relative is something that's just based on the understanding of where you are. All right. Now, how I feel about it, that's going to be my perspective onto it. So I want to clarify that. So what you're talking about, we were talking about earlier, is if I was on the shoreline, there was a sailboat sailing by at a pretty decent rate of speed, and there was a person actually on the boat, and then a ball was dropped from the top of the mast. To the person on the shoreline, they would see a triangulation based on the speed and the projection of the boat moving. So therefore, the ball would move away from the mast, you know? But for the person on the boat, the ball fell parallel to the mast. So it just came straight down. Thanks for that little visual there for the hearing impaired.
Hey, I'm just making sure we got a nice visual up front.
Yeah.
But one way like this, exact same scenario, both people are not wrong. Yeah. Guys, this gives you a visual way to understand what Frank and I are talking about.
Yeah, so that's relativity. That's relevance. Yeah.
Both are right.
Yeah. Perspective it can be pulled into that. Perspective is how I feel about it and how I look at it and stuff like that. So you can entwine the two, but we're talking about relevance in that aspect. So.
Oh, no, absolutely. I just like to dive into the science side, or how people's dated what we are a being, this body, what's going on. So how we interpret a situation is going to be based on a multitude of different things.
Yeah.
How much we've slept, how much we've eaten.
All
of these affect what ways we're looking at this.
If you believe that's what affects you.
Yes, absolutely. Everything is a permission.
You'll have a scientist that will do studies on sleep, and they'll say the average person, male, anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, female, everywhere from 9 to 10. And then you get high function people that sleep 4 hours. Well, where do they fit into this equation? It really comes down to all these scientists, when they do these studies, are influenced by their how they want to see it output. So they actually have.
That's what quantum physics has proven. What you're searching for.
Yes, what you search for, you will find, and depending on the variance and how you find. So if a scientist goes in to do an experiment, they already have some bit of prejudice or sensitivity to something. So okay, if they didn't have any thought onto the matter to begin with, they would not even do the experiment. They would have no girth to do it. So, and that's what quantum physics shows us. All these studies we do, whoever did the study wanted it to turn out this way, or probably didn't believe it would turn out this way. So if I was doing a study and I didn't believe it would turn out this way, even though I wanted it to turn out this way, it would turn out in the opposite direction which I wanted, because my subconscious, my belief, will outweigh what I want to happen opposed to what I believe will happen.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how the brain works.
So if I believe I need 8 hours of sleep in order to function well, I must get 8 hours of sleep. Where I like personally to step out of that is because sometimes I might not have control of 8 hours of sleep, or if I need 8 hours of sleep, I'm thinking I need 8 hours of sleep, and if I only get 7.5 hours, I'm deficient by 30 minutes. And what does that 30 minutes mean to me? Am I gonna?
I'm thrown off for the whole day.
Like,
30
oh my
minutes.
God! Like a 5 minutes. Jeez, I just 5 more minutes. It would have been a perfect day. But what happens is I'm attaching to a concept that was sold to me by someone who did a study of maybe 10 people, and maybe they were convinced that 8 hours.
Maybe 500 people.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but maybe they were convinced that 8 hours of sleep is the proper amount of sleep. Who knows? Like, we don't know. Like, in obviously different times of the year based on the sun. Like, as we go into it, I'm not saying to disassociate or disassemble these studies, but we are powerful beings, and how we believe about something. So maybe the person that gets 4 hours of sleep is like, because they're a grand achiever. I'm going to do it in 4. Then the hell with this study.
I only need 4.
Yeah.
And they would be just fine. Again, it's what they put their mind on.
Yeah, because think about this. I only need 4 hours of sleep. But what happens if you got 8? Would you wake up pissed? You know? So even saying I only need 4 is relevant to saying I need 8. Rather, if you kind of play out and says, whatever sleep I get, I'll be adequate and efficient for the day ahead. I'll be able to get through the day no matter what because it's in my mind, But the thing is I can say that, but what's my subconscious really tell me? All right. So these are all programmable thoughts that put in us. And as we learn to operate better on this plane, you actually have to step out, rise above it, and then reset that and see no matter what happens, the day is going to be good, rather than I need this to happen in order for the day to be good.
And that resetting that Frank's talking about, guys, that's called neuroplasticity. Okay, so
that's what the scientists call it.
Yeah. There you go. Because there is no
before the word neuroscience plasticity, Buddha knew this already. Jesus knew this already, but that term didn't exist. And I'm not knocking the understanding of existence, because we had everything from Socrates, Plato to Aristotle already talking about this, but yet they were from the more Greek philosophy, so the terminology would have been different. But it doesn't really matter.
And that's a great point, because science is just a language. It's just a way for us to convey a message without an attached subconscious meaning to it.
Yeah.
Where, if Frank and I were to reference the Bible, Frank and I are looking at this from a universal perspective. We're not talking about it from a perspective. People see things through a certain lens. Oh man, I'm not religious. Well, the more you push against or away from something, the more you're going to see it, the more you're going to, life's the Chinese finger trap. The more you pull and struggle and strife, the tighter it gets. Yeah. The tighter a grip it has on you. It's not until you let go that it's only been my mind making religion a big deal for me to hear. Or making this, or giving me this impression. Yeah. You see what I mean? It's all mind. Everything is a mental construct, and the more we loosen up what is and what is not and what should and what shouldn't be, you see how malleable this reality that we live in, and it's nice. It's a relaxing feeling. It's like, wow, everything that I've been kind of thinking is so concrete. It's not. It's simply in the mind. And this neuroplasticity that Frank and I are talking about, it's important to see, wow, okay, how the brain works is the brain is simply there. It operates on 2 laws, principles, whatever you want to call it. It's the law of association, assignment, and then the law of repetition. Your brain is only there simply to confirm your beliefs. So as you're taking in information, if you have a belief system of I need 4 hours sleep, or this is right, or this is wrong, whatever, your brain only filters information that confirms your belief and filters out any information that does not confirm your belief. And so as that's why, is this good? Is this bad? There's no such thing. Your mind is what makes it so. And
and the mind, well, actually, if you have a belief in something, your mind's going to protect you for the belief, so it's going to keep everything out. So the question here is, so getting back to the root, how we started this thing, the radio would be out of our control, where the guitar would be in my control. So I get to make the music rather than actually being stuck within the field of only listening to songs that are put out in front of me. So this is what we're talking about. So what is it that you prefer? Then allow that belief to enter in. But people want to find, well, before I can believe that, I want to know if it's true. And I'm like, you make it so by believing it. And everyone that believes something will always find evidence to it. This is why when we compare beliefs, we always get into this ruckus. Because in the law of polarity, it always will be. So everything I believe, an argument I have about something, has an equal and valid argument on the other end of the aisle. We're both right. But I don't need for you to be wrong in order for me to be right. And this is what we talk about in the infinite world. That even goes within the law and the principle of polarity. Well, the negative doesn't need to be the positive, nor the positive need to be a negative. I need the negative to be the negative. I need the positive to be the positive for the whole thing to work. So you are right and I am right, but I don't need to see who's righter because it's all relevant to where I am at and
Relative.
where you are. Relative.
Yeah.
So when you actually think about the relevance to it, this is what we're talking about. But people try and define the truth. There is no the truth. There's an empirical truth that all truths are true.
Absolutely.
And if you follow the belief into the truth, you get from a belief and you actually experience it. All of a sudden, the belief turns into a knowing. There's a difference. Like, people are like, what do you mean, believe? Well, listen to the words. Like, hey, you coming over tonight? I believe I'll be there. It leaves a little bit of, I'm not sure. But it's like, you're going to be there? I know I'll be there. And once we utilize belief to move into the unknown, because that's what we do, we come into a whole field of knowing. But once I come into a field of knowing, I want a new knowing. So I have to gather up a new belief in order to move beyond the point in which I'm at. And here, utilizing the radio as an example here, opposed to using the instrument where I get the control of the music in which I play, is a whole different ballgame.
Well,
one isn't better than the other because we actually, the musician also listens to the radio and takes side to somebody else is playing and disallows it. But at the same time, I could watch a person play classical guitar and I could pick up my guitar and play blues, but in a different way because I saw someone playing classical. That's what I'm talking about. It's not about which one's better. They both merge into each other.
And there's motions of this, or there's steps, there's layers. Like that, in a sense, is, in a linear look at this, is, okay, once you recognize what the radio is, then you recognize you can change the channels.
Yeah.
Then you see, I'm playing the instrument. You see?
And both. In both. So in this case, the radio would almost be like the subconscious program mind. It's already set forth. The conscious mind would then be the actual instrument. Now you have 12 notes in front of you. You can play any chord structure you want and whatever and do that and just play it off. But you have to have a variance, and that's going to be from your subconscious. Where did I leave off? And then how do I expand? In order for anyone to invent something, there had to be something to invent into. But then there are places where we can go into a complete imagination and play a piece of music that we've maybe never heard. But we're not really looking for that because you would never ever play an instrument. But sometimes that occurs.
Can you imagine being in the I don't even know what it was. Let's just say the 30s. I could be wrong. I probably am. But back when they've invented the airplane. Can you imagine what was going on? We're farming to survive.
Yeah, it was before
all
the 30s. But
there you go, 1910, whatever. Do you know when it was?
I don't know the exact date, but they were using it in the wars, so yeah.
Okay, well, let's go further back then. So can you imagine being imagine being the guy to say, I'm going to put a piece of metal in the air and fly people in it? And how ridiculous that would have sounded during that time period.
Yeah, but those thoughts were contemplated way back in
But
exactly,
you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we as looking at that idea in retrospect.
Yeah. So what is it now? Let's come to
that's it.
Now
let's push it again.
Yeah.
What is next? Guys, nothing is impossible.
No.
Nothing. This is an infinite world, and that's what Frank's saying.
Yeah. Even though we're in a finite setting, go back to relationship of music, you have 12 notes. God isn't going to offer up a 13th note because we're running out of music. But you'll never run out of music. You may utilize a different instrument, maybe change the sound, like how Eddie Van Halen changed the distortion on his guitar to make it sound different than, say, Eric Clapton. But yet, they were still playing guitar, and the guitar had, 6 strings on it and so on and so forth. But there was something that came across when each of those musicians were playing that had never been played before. Matter of fact, no one could ever replicate somebody else. So you can come close, but there is no true replication than the original time in which you're doing it.
All different signature frequencies.
And we all, doesn't matter who picks up a guitar, I cannot play like Eddie Van Halen. And
Even if you could play the song identically.
Yeah, and Eddie Van Halen can probably play just as good as me.
I don't think Eddie can play like Frank Daly.
No one can.
No one can.
Yeah, no one can.
No.
Yeah,
Frank Daly plays a guitar way different than Van Halen.
Way different. Way different. Well,
there's no such thing as better or worse, Frank.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's rolling over in his grave right now. But
that's funny.
Yeah. But we came here. We all have a signature frequency vibration. So we were given an instrument to play. At the same time, we were also given a set of variants or a radio, so to speak, in order to listen, to understand where. So there is things, there's principles that we have to learn or come to understand. But when we do, we innately know that's the truth. It's like, wow. Because there's no arguing over it. It's how do I do it? But most people are focused on what's being done. They're trying to measure what's being done. So, like, getting back to this whole sleep study, like, and again, I've read a couple of sleep studies, so I'm not going to get too much into them because they keep doing them. But if I'm waiting for the information after the person has slept 8 hours and then measure them, actually, the input happened prior to the sleep. I get to say what's going to happen prior to it, not before it, or not after it. Not after it's as a byproduct of what you were thinking before it. We just may have not thought we were thinking anything prior to it. So when I
slow that down because that's important, and I will play that back again.
So when I head out into my day will turn out based off of my perception on how it's turned out. Now, at times
from the start, before it's even happened.
Before it's happened. Now, because we live mainly in a subconscious, you don't realize you're spinning this story in your head and wonder why it's like this shit keeps happening to me. And it's what is your self-talk is what a lot of people say, and what is your self-frequency vibration of thought.
What's your commentary?
Yeah, they like I always hear different numbers, but just say relatively the numbers of like we have 60,000 thoughts per day.
Oh yeah, right? It's crazy. I thought it was 70.
60, 70.
Yeah, I'm sure there's different.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the relevant thing is here, what happens is I'll have 60,000 today and 60,000 tomorrow. What's the variance, the difference in those thoughts? And again, I can't know what the average person is. I only know me. And there were times in my life where the 60,000 thoughts I had on a Wednesday were almost identical to thoughts I had on Thursday. But yet there was this consciousness in me that expected Thursday to be different than Wednesday, other than the fact that it was a day closer to the weekend.
That's the consciousness.
Yeah.
Not the subconscious.
Yeah.
The subconscious is the 60,000 thoughts. The subconscious is
what conscious,
today's excuse me. The conscious is wait, today's supposed to be different.
Yeah.
Because that's the present.
And not understanding the full understanding of that. But as time goes on, I might have 60,000 thoughts, and tomorrow I'll have another 60,000 thoughts, but maybe 20% of those are different. That's all I need. I don't need to have a complete set of 60,000 thoughts the next day.
Nor do I think that's possible.
Well, it might be possible if you get hit in the head and forget your name.
There you go.
Who am I? Yeah. Exactly, because we don't want to have to learn how to walk again, talk again, all these other things that we started at when we were younger. So these things in the subconscious program, it's like when you get a phone or a computer, you want some basis of software on there in order to be applicable. Otherwise, you have to write your own software, and that's pretty laborious if you're not into programming. So I want a certain basis of something to happen. So we collect this. And over time, we drop certain type of software, as we call it, or programming, in order to, because I know I only have a certain amount of megabytes. That's why I stopped storing shit, It's like, why can't I remember anything? I'm like, yeah, I used all my memory up when I was young. I don't tell you. It's like, I got like 3 megabytes left. And this conversation is actually taking all those up. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I talk to Karen, it's like 4 gigabytes. I'm like, shit, I don't got that. She wonders why I don't listen.
Baby, I'm running on low.
Yeah, Jesus, yeah. I'm just not even going to record anything. Just going to let it slide by. Yeah. And Karen, I don't have to say sorry because she knows that to be true. So she knows. She knows.
That's just the truth.
I'm like on gigabytes. Yeah.
I think it would be on megabytes.
Megabytes,
right? It goes
not
down
gigabytes,
from
yeah.
giga. I think is bigger.
Karen expects me to be on terabytes. I'm like, that's never
Oh
gonna
yeah,
happen.
there you go.
I need an external hard drive for that thing, baby.
I wonder if that's the future. We can just detach by having a separate device that allows us to.
Well, we joke about this, but the
it's
truth
actually coming. That's what Musk's
it's already here. It's already here. And what I mean is, and taking all joking aside, when you have a device that's connected to the cloud, you don't need any gigabytes, megabytes, or even what's even below megabytes. I don't know.
Oh, it's like the KB one, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means.
When I'm present, in those moments I'm present, I am connected to universal source, which is the cloud. I don't need to store. It comes into me. All right? And that's the point I'm trying to get at to my instrument. I don't need to, remember the playing piano that you wouldn't need to play? It's already programmed into it. No, I want the piano to be there with nothing into it. And I want to allow the new energy to come to me. I don't want anything programmed. There are certain things I do want programmed to help me walk and talk and speak and that. And, even that I want to advance in my language part because I slur a lot of times. But as time goes on, I want to be able to advance and expand upon that as well as time goes on. Because if I'm here trying to express different understandings and metaphors, language becomes a prompt thing to learn, or get better at. So that's my New York, and it messes me up half the time. But in other words, I feel like I'm improving in there. But there's other things, other areas that I just want to completely allow myself to be present, open up, that come to me that I wasn't even thinking about, that came through. And then are recognizable. That's the place. So I don't need any memory there because it comes from universal source. Now I'm just a conduit for that information to come through. And these are the places where artists, poets, and when I say artists, I'm going to put them all together because actually all human beings are artists. And what is their artistry? It's their life. Think about that. You're a director, a producer, an actor, sometimes a extra. Don't mind me over here.
All of it.
Yeah. You're everything. You're a one-person performer, and you're also the recorder of the performance. You're everything. So the true artwork is yourself. But what we're talking about, artists like a painter, a musician, those are just attributes or expressions of it. But they're no more an artist than the person, riding the bus, down Broadway.
Can you imagine the artist painting the character and feeling the pain of the character? Or feeling the sorrow or the suffering of the character.
Well, that's what they do all day.
I was just going to say, that's what we're doing right now.
That's what we do all day.
It's funny.
We might not be able to express it through animation on a
that's
sheet
what
of
we're
paper,
doing.
or into pixels, but that's what we're doing.
When you can get visuals like this, it helps you connect with, holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm in this tango. I'm observing the tango.
You're playing
and I'm
the music
directing
the tango.
Yeah, it's all one, and we never really got to the end of that where Frank got to, but where we were bringing it back from and bringing it to was everything is right now, and what we mean by that is a future moment, etc. Everything like that. In future tense or past tense is simply an idea. Everything happens in this moment, in this now, and it's only as you can experience it. Frank, what was that quote that you had about the experience of in this moment? Didn't you write it down before this?
No, I don't believe so.
You did.
See, there goes again.
Check it. I swear, I thought you did.
Oh, on my paperwork.
Yeah. Something about experience.
Nah.
Yeah, I know you did.
Nah, it doesn't matter. Here we are in the present moment. It is what it is.
But you see what I'm saying?
But yeah, we don't need a quote. We don't need to memorize anything because at every moment I could say something different. Because memorizing a quote, a lot of times people put on a T-shirt a quote, but they don't really get the gist of the meaning. I'm like, take a quote by Einstein or Socrates and make it your own. And the way you make it your own, it's like discover the understanding of what they talk about, and they can use it for relevant term. But do not, like, people say quotes all day, and it's like, yeah, but do you feel what they meant when they said it? So when Socrates said, I know nothing, what does it feel? What do you think he felt like when he said it? Not the actual words, because anyone can say that. When Einstein said either everything's a miracle, nothing's a miracle, how did he come to know that? What was he feeling that propagated that information come through them? All right? And what happens, we go over time, and whether it's a character from 5,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 5 days ago, it's this feeling of vibration coming through and trying to explain it on this plane in which we understand in language. So if you speak in English, not too many variants in words have changed, so we keep saying it, but I could say it slightly different. But it's the feeling that allowed it to come through me, so the words just place it that way. So I suggest and I encourage everyone to come in with their own understanding of every quote. So if you read the Bible or you read something from Socrates, know that you're the one writing it as well. They are no smarter than you, although you can convince yourself that you aren't, and you can have the experience that they are, therefore you're deficient. But they aren't. At some level, we're greater because we're here now and they aren't, so to speak. And there was a quote from Jesus said, even the least among us can do as I've already done, and even greater. The least among us. So somebody that is at a lower frequency, it's not better or worse, can then do as I have done, and even greater as we move on. Because greater is the understanding of expansion. We're constantly expanding. So why would I grab onto something knowing I'm going to expand to another place where I already have that? I don't need to. And these are concepts, just like holding on to something isn't real. No one really can hold on to something. It just becomes a concept. And as we loosen this up and start to understand this, we won't have to memorize anything. But I'll know what I need to know in the moment in which I'm in. And all of a sudden, when I'm in this moment, I get like a little nudge from the universe, a little spark, a little packet of information. It's an impulse. And an impulse allows the words to come through, but the impulse is what's changing it. So it's like a frequency vibration will come out of my mouth, and it's your ears that make it audible into the language of what we call English. But without your ears, there is nothing other than just a vibrational frequency that has to be dictated. So I'm getting a packet of frequency vibration, and I'm dictating it out the best I can. Yes, my English teacher thinks it could be better, but hey, I'm improving, or I'm expanding. And this is all we're doing. So it's more than just a replication of just spouting out. We're more than just a speaker. We're actually have the frequency and emotion onto something to actually bring a new to something, right? Because if Jesus was still here, if Buddha was still here, they would be saying different things. They still wouldn't be using the same quote as they've used 2,000 or 2,500 years ago, depending on which figure we're talking about. They wouldn't. Einstein would have a whole different outlook on life if he was still alive. He would have to, because he continuously expands. He's not like I said back in 1905, it's all relative. Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. And that's, so when we tap into this place in the present moment without trying to think, because you can't think in the present moment, you can contemplate. And in contemplation, just allowing the energy to move in a direction in which you choose or prefer to go. And then in that, the energy flow streams. And when the energy flows through me, I get this vibrational emotion feeling. And then words just come out of my mouth. And this is what people call speaking the truth. And it's my truth, my relevant truth at the moment. I don't expect it to be everyone's truth. But I'm encouraging you not to lay your hat on my truth. I'm saying place your hat on your own truth. I'm just showing you, just like when I listened to Eddie Van Halen play guitar, I had to play my own guitar. I couldn't let him. But because I heard his guitar, oh my God, I want to pick up the guitar and play the instrument the universe gave me in the frequency in which I play it. And the universes keep giving me expansive instruments, always, constantly. It never ends. I didn't come here to replicate or duplicate. I came here to create anew. Every human being did. We just think we're not, but you are. If you complain, you got a different complaint today. You know, if you're whining, you got a different whine today. If you love somebody, it's a different love. It's a different expansive love. To think we're not expanding is funny. To think we're not letting go is funny. We are letting go. You just don't realize it. You cannot not let go. Just like every breath that comes in of oxygen, you have to release the carbon dioxide out of the body to only get more oxygen. We just think we're not doing it, but we are. We think we're not enlightened, but we are. We think we're not spiritual, but we are. We think we have to know a certain amount or understand a certain amount to be spiritual. I'm like, no, I'll never understand enough to know that I know nothing. And that's the truth. But that keeps me moving into the unknown to want to know more in the experience and dive in and open up and allow it. Like, wow. Can't believe, like, how many times have you and I got together, like, you're not going to believe this. And it's every time. You're not going to believe this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It never gets old. It never gets old. Just like.
Because of spontaneity. Yeah,
because I'm not memorizing anything. But there is an infinite source of information out there. It is like, to them, it's like a little funnel, and you have like the whole ocean you're trying to dump into it. You're never going to run out of water, people. Because the time you even get that little, all the ocean into the funnel, it evaporated and ended back up in the ocean anyway and duplicated itself through another osmosis aspect. This information is infinite.
Well, if we were to take a dropper and fill it with water from the ocean and drop just one drop, wouldn't that same drop still be the ocean?
It would be. It would be part of the ocean. But it isn't.
That's what we are.
Yeah, but know this. It isn't the ocean, but it's a part of the ocean. Just like I am from the source God, but I myself, as Frank Daly, I am not God, but I have infinite information in a fractal understanding of God. So I also understand that I didn't make the instrument, but I'm learning how to play it in this plane and field in which we're in. So, you know, the guitar didn't create music. The guitar expresses music along with the guitar player. But where did music come from?
And that's Frank, is to express.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the point of this being
instrument
that we carry. Yes,
our
instrument.
Yeah.
The universal instrument that when you begin to look at the body as not you and as the functions of hearing, tasting, smelling, touching for experience, it's nice because you let go of all these ideas about yourself of who you are and what you've been carrying, because you see yourself not as a body. So the ideas of weight, this, hair color, lack of hair, all these types of things begin to fall away because you realize, oh, that's very funny. That's like me looking at a calculator and not liking it because of its color.
Yeah.
Not liking it because of its size. Not liking it because of the way it takes it up on a table. Your body is a tool. Your body is an instrument.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, think about, like, let's go back to, like, guitar players like Eddie Van Halen. So he took, like, a Charvel, and he took it apart. So he changed it and modified it slightly. But he didn't drastically change a guitar to play it different than any other guitar player in history played it. Not better, just different. Because he still did that. So our instruments are very relatively the same, but we play different, we express differently. So my hair, my body and stuff like that, that is part and parcel of it. So I have the ability to take, some type of Strat and have 3 pickups and just take out 2 and just put one humbucker in the end and just with a Floyd Rose, whatever, and change the output of it. I changed it slightly, and I have the right to do that, and that's part of what I'm doing. But it's not till I play it. So my physical body is the instrument. The I of who I am, the understanding, is the player of it. You need both. We are duality in our life. You know, I remember Eckhart Tolle saying this. When he came to his realization of that he was spirit, or he was talking to himself, when he came to realization that there was two of him, because how would he have the conversation where I can't take this life anymore? Like, he had these thoughts. But who knows this? And he found it very peculiar, to the point where he realized, wait a minute, if there's two of me, which one's in charge, so to speak? And I'm putting that to my own words. It's the observer of the character that's hearing,
that's
I
all,
can't
that's
take
all
this
Frank
anymore.
and I are ever talking about.
That's it.
Is that right there? Is realizing, wow,
because Eddie Van Halen,
I can observe this character.
Yeah, Eddie Van Halen could have gave me his guitar, but I still can't play it the way he played it. But it's the same guitar. So who we are is just an instrument. It's how it's played. The I am, so to speak, is the player of it. You know what I'm saying? That's who we empirically are. But yet the player still needs the instrument in order to express itself.
I am is the first person singular of to be. And that's what Frank and I are talking about. To be. I am.
We live in a duality world. So the guitarist needs the guitar. But what is a guitarist without a guitar? So what is the I am?
What is consciousness without body?
Yeah, exactly. Because you won't be able to express it. So once we realize the I am and the body are one in all, in order to express the experience in which we're having. So it's not about diminishing or pushing the body aside. That's why, I take care of my guitar.
But I think that's, I like where you're going with that, because it's important, like that understanding of the instrument, the body. Trees. A tree has consciousness. A tree is conscious, okay? A tree is a being. A dog is conscious. They're so in the moment that, it's great. This is why we love our pets, our dogs, our animals.
Unless they piss
the
on
dog, the tree, right? The dog, the tree, they don't have the capability that the human being body was given. And this tool, this instrument is so powerful. It can create anything you would like to experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if a tree has that capability. I've never. I'm not a tree at this moment. I'm not a dog at this moment.
It's relative to the tree, and so the thing is when humans can kind of mix up and think like, I could run down the block, but the tree can't. But the tree's like, I don't.
That's in a linear way of thinking.
Yeah,
it's a totally
it's like the tree's
apple
like,
orange.
Yeah, the tree's like, I didn't come here to run, And the bird can look at you. It's like, yeah, try
that's like
flying.
a fish climb a tree thing.
Yeah, so we always try to relate everything to us, but this is where we get mixed up. Is because we think everything ought to be like us. To
this
be
or that.
Same, yeah, it's this or that. If it's not, we must be at a higher level. The thing is, that may be true. It may not be true. I don't know enough to even claim that to be. I just know in the relevant terms to where I am. Like, again, I've said this before. When I always hear people, and I say it too, and I try to refrain from saying it, but when people are like, oh, most people, I'm like, I don't know most people. They claim to be 8 billion people on the planet, and I'm not denying there is or isn't. I'm not here to debate that. But I don't know anywhere near 8 billion people. Like, the people I know, I barely know myself because I keep expanding. So who do I really know? I know a fractal of myself as it expands. I knew myself at 18. I knew myself at 20. I knew myself yesterday. But do I know my future self? That's my imagination. What persona do I want to move into? How do I want to play my future self? What instrument do I want to do? How, do I want to put a new set of strings on it? Do I want to put a different distortion pedal in between the guitar and the amp? These are the expressive and the movement we have in this linear perspective, three-dimensional, fourth one of time experience. So we're not here to deny it. But if you understand, you'll never get it done. So stop trying to get it done. You actually relax into the moment because you'll never get it done. Every musician died with more music in them. But that's not sad. What would be sad is like, I'm done. Yeah, I'm not dead yet, though. And you're like hanging out, like waiting. It's like, yeah, it's waiting for my time to come. No. I want to die with another poem in me, another story in me, another podcast in me. Right? I'll never get it done. And knowing I'll never get it done allows me to be present because I'm no longer trying to get it done. And there is some relief in that. And all of a sudden, the paradox is I end up doing more than I did when I thought I had to get it done. Because when I thought I had to get it done, I was so focused on getting it done that I was interfering, like a wave interfering with each other. And what I was trying to achieve was being blocked. It was being slowed down. But when I no longer have to get it done because I know it's impossible to get it all done, I no longer concern myself with getting it done. All of a sudden I open up and the frequency waves are in synchronous. They're in harmony. In harmony, it's like, wow, this goes a long way. And also like, oh yeah, you're very efficient. It's because I don't need to get it done. It's a paradox concept, but there is tremendous power in this understanding of paradox. But if you try to get it done, try to hurry up, look what happens. The energy field gets excited. You end up stepping on yourself. You leave the house, you left your keys in there, you come back, all that type of stuff. But when you're never in a rush, you move swiftly. So be present. Know that you'll never get this done because there's nothing to get done. It's infinite. But yet, in this little finite setting that we place ourselves into, there's an infinite ways of playing it out. It's 12 notes of music. Do you think we're ever going to run out of music? You know?
Never.
It's like, God, please, just one more note. 13 notes. It's all I need. Right? I need to write another song, but I need one more note. If, like, you know, imagine me in an interview. I would love to, like, I'm not a musician, but at a profession, but so why do you think you don't write any music? Well, if they would release that 13th note, you know.
That's really what I'm waiting on.
I'm waiting on. Meanwhile, everybody else is playing on. Yeah, it's like, yeah, just wait for that 13th note. It's not my fault. And I joke about that, but a lot of times we utilize these excuses of finite understandings to create, well, it's finite, so I ran out of resources. I'm like, no, one seed can grow a whole forest. Do you realize that? But you're looking at that one seed as one tree. No. That one seed will grow a tree, and that tree will grow millions of seeds or produce millions of seeds. I'm like, you're looking at it from a very linear perspective. That one little acorn is a forest of oak trees. It really is. When you look at it that way, I don't need for the forest to be in order for me to imagine a complete forest. That's the power we have, is in the field of imagination. Wow. So as I see the forest in my imagination, I take the shovel out and bury the acorn and know it's going to happen. But right now, that's all I need to know. Is it's possible? And when I know it's possible, the infinite world opens up to me, but then I pick up my instrument in the way it was given to me and I play it. If it's the guitar, I don't worry about the drums or the piano. I just play the guitar. And that's how...
The more focus we can have, like building a wall. You know, lay each brick one by one. Don't focus on the wall.
Just each brick.
Yep.
And one day you'll have a wall.
Be in that moment. And that same thing.
Just make sure you put a doorway.
You know the capabilities.
Yeah.
But can you, have a forest without planting that first acorn? No.
And also, too, like the variance, too, is like, steadfast focus and also bigger perspective or bigger picture needs. Because if you actually sit there and only focus on the bricks, one day you might block yourself into the room and be stuck. So you have to come into the world and then step out. Oh, let's put a doorway so I can get out of this thing. So we're playing within the field of focus and then big picture focused, big picture. It's the fluctuation of life. There is movement. There is summer, there is winter, and in between is spring and fall in the variances of moving. There's always going to be that. When we understand that, we don't panic. So, yeah, focus on the brick and then step away so you can create a doorway so you can get out of that room.
And you'll feel this energy as you begin to grow.
Oh, yeah.
What used to be a challenge you see as the new opportunity. It's that next step towards that forest.
Yeah, I believe every one of us, is already feeling that. We just don't know what it is.
Yeah, or how to move into it.
We're already in it.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes you think there's something wrong. Like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Hey, doc, what happens? Like, I don't know, like, whenever I hear the song, the hairs on my neck stand up. It's like, you're excited. Oh, is that what that is? You know? And, but when we don't understand it, somehow we've been programmed to think there is something wrong. So when humans aren't familiar, and getting back to humans, I'm only going to revert it to me. In the past, what I call the past, when I wasn't familiar with something, my first thought was there's something wrong with this. Protect yourself from it. Now, it's not that I don't do that, but I try to get my conscious thought into the universe would not place in front of me something that would harm me. So why would I depict it as harm? All right? Like, everyone's talking about COVID and disease, and now there's a new variant's coming out and all this stuff. And it's interesting. But there's a couple of biologists that I listen to from different avenues, and they're not, this is their perspective. They're not like saying this is true. They're not stating this is fact, and this is kind of why I tend to gravitate towards them. So they're adding their highly educated perspective. And they're saying, well, how do we know this COVID isn't here to amplify the frequency of our body? In other words, to add something to the body. So when we get it, you actually, as science tells us and biology tells us, you grow antibodies to fight against it, which then makes the body stronger. Do you think this virus is here to make our body stronger for some other output that's going to happen in the future? Because when biologists had studied diseases in the past, getting all those viruses in the past helped the body amplify to the place in which right now, because of the higher frequency output on the planet coming from the sun, the electromagnetic field, all these things have changed since 300 years ago. And they're not even saying this is to be true, but no one's even talking about that contemplation, and we're running from this thing. Maybe this COVID virus is information that we need to absorb. Yes, absorb. Just like you eat elephant one bite at a time. Don't overload it because you'll explode. All right? Now, I'm not a biologist, so again, look into this for yourself. I'm just offering a different perspective on how to look things, and I'm just using this topic. So don't take this as reality because like I said, I'm not the biologist who was talking about it. But when they were talking about it, I'm like, huh, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Maybe it is something here to offer into our being as the climate of the planet changes. Because why is it changing? There's a different frequency output. I'm not here to debate why it's changing, how it's changing. Are we the cause, or is this a natural causation? I'm not here to debate that because that's not my job. That's up for you to figure out. But how do we know we ought not to allow this to inoculate ourselves to get to a higher level? Well, to some degree we are, because people that are getting a shot inoculate themselves with a bit of the virus. And is it going to amplify us? But we always think something far we don't understand is going to completely take us down and destroy us. Well, where I'm starting to realize that's not true, because as I studied history, I realized the one great thing I got out of studying history is we're still here. We're still here.
Oh, we're fighters.
Well,
this biological being.
It's not even fighters. We're adapters. I don't need to fight to adapt. I don't need to fight the mountain to adapt to the oxygen level as I go higher. My body, it's something that's innate in me that I have nothing to do with other than the visual and having the experience of it. But there's nothing to fight because I don't even, I'm not the causation of it. I'm the experiencer of it. I'm moving. I'm the one allowing myself to move up the mountain to where the oxygen level is lower, and then my body naturally acclimates to it. So, oh, why isn't he acclimated? Well, he didn't read the book on acclimation. He's an idiot. No, I don't need to read a book on acclimation.
Yeah. Does it.
Like if you had to read a book on acclimation, can you imagine you had to read?
He's never read that.
Hey, I'm eating food, but it's not digesting. Did you read the book on digestion?
Did you not get the manual?
Yeah, if you read the book on digestion, your body will digest. It's absurd.
No, it is.
But the thing is I used to think in that way, and now I realize I know very little or know anything enough to say, if something's come into my way, why am I looking at it as an enemy? Yes, I'm going to not just jump into the lion's mouth, so to speak. So I'm going to be in this very setback way. I'm going to examine it, but I'm not going to run from it. I'm going to approach it with respect, if you will, and then afar, and then move in. Just like when I see a dog that's not mine, I don't run from it, but I look at it, and I gain a frequency to it, and then it allows me to pet it. But if I ran up to it, it'd bite me in the hand. If I ran away from it, it'd bite me in the ass. But if I gently move into it and respect it, and then it allows me to respect it, we have this common thing. So we approach everything that's foreign to us with that. With speculation, not fear, and not unbridled running into it, we'll survive, not just survive, we'll thrive in this world. All right? So I'm not saying jump off the cliff thinking you can fly because you saw a bird do it. And certainly don't get anywhere near the cliff because you can't do it. But speculate. Look into it. See what you can do. And then all of a sudden the answer will come to you. And then you'll start to do it. Now all of a sudden it's not foreign. Wow. And guess what? Tomorrow another foreign thing will come up. And this is what we're here. We're all explorers. We're all artists. We're here to explore the frequencies and what we call emotions. You know? Somebody today was telling me, it's a client of mine was talking about, and they were talking about anxiety. The first time they ever had a panic attack, they freaked out, ran to the doctors, and checked them. It's like, no, it's not a heart attack. You're having a panic attack. The second time they had a panic attack, they were okay because they knew they were having a panic attack. I'm having a panic attack. So be it. It wasn't foreign anymore. They still had the panic attack, but it was no longer foreign to where they were freaking out, which made the panic attack even worse. So now once they realize I'm having a panic attack, just in the moment in which they recognize they're having a panic attack, guess what happened? The panic attack slowly diminished. So we don't run from something foreign. We actually start to cooperate with it. We start to get into the field of it because it has a frequency and I have a frequency. And then we become harmonious. The universe will never give you something to run from. But when you run and you run off a cliff and meet your demise, it wasn't that foreign thing. It was your inability to get close to it to actually collaborate with it. You chose to run and fall off the cliff. That was a choice based off of what we call ignorance or empirical ignorance, because we're all ignorant until we get to know that entity that we don't know, right? But once we get close to it and move into it, we start to get used to it, become friendly with it, collaborate with it, and then we see the worth of it. Humans, we're all humans, but we fight against each other. But if you would just sit across from each other, examine each other, and didn't realize you're collaborating with each other, you came here to help me, I came here to help you, we're helping each other, you would never fight. You would never fight. That is a path of most resistance. We are operating in the path of least resistance. But because I don't recognize you, I don't understand you, I want to fight you, I want to get rid of you or run from you, which is the same. It's absurd. But yet, I've done this, so that's how I know the absurdity of it. It didn't work. It never worked. It didn't work. Because how far can I run? It was almost like There was a TV show I used to watch when I was a kid called Land of the Lost. I don't know if you ever heard of
Never.
it. So this family.
Wait, Land of the Lost, is that dinosaurs?
Yeah, well, what was it? The family they went into like a Stargate type of thing.
Oh, okay.
So they went into a different space and time. So they went back to where there was dinosaurs. But there were these characters called the Slee Stacks, right? And they were like these lizardy looking things. What was funny is they were running through the same like a jungle of woods, and the Slee Stacks were moving like the speed of a zombie. These people are like fully running full on, but every time they turn around, they were on their tail. Like, how does that even work? Like they're running a 440. This thing's running like an hour 40.
Yeah.
You know, and yet they're still up. They're like, what's going on here? This makes no sense to me. Like, yeah, how is this possible? But what's funny is they were always running from the Slee Stacks. Now, there were moments when someone was like tired of running from it. And they got to understand the Slee Stack wasn't really their enemy. But if you run from a dog will bite you in the ass. But if you approach a dog with respect, it would allow its head to be rubbed and it'll lick your hand. But you have to do it moving in at the pace in which you do it. You know, you don't run towards the dog because it'll bite you just the same. If you run from it, again, it'll bite you just the same. But why is it that we're scared of this? And history says we were here. I mean, we've been here many times before and we're still here. So we could start eliminate the idea of fear. But speculation, moving into something, learning about it. Yeah, these are still principles we could hold on to. You know? Like, you know.
Well, that's where we'll kind of thrive the most, too.
Yeah, yeah. So
it's in that point. Yeah. It's in that knowing where.
Yeah, I like the feel of being skeptical. I'm not a cynic. I used to be. I'm not, like, I was raised in New York, so you weren't allowed to be gullible, for the love of God. Yeah, I got rid of gullible by the age of 10. Like, the shit, they're like, yeah, hey, I got a bridge to sell you. By 10 years old, you didn't believe anything anyone ever said. So you were pretty much a cynic, right? But a cynic gets you nowhere. It keeps you in that box that you built. Like, I got my freaking homestead, I'm not leaving.
Mm-hmm.
But being a skeptic actually allows you to step out of the box slowly and approach things in a very respectful way, and then you get to know it, and then you realize this is why it's here. But gullible will get you bitten. A cynic will keep you away from learning anything new. But a skeptic is right now the approach I take in the physical plane in which we're in.
I think skepticism and what you're talking about is important because that's what neuroplasticity is if you don't have the ability to step out and look at something different, then the neurons that are firing together will never change.
No. Yeah.
It will show you the same experience, the same outcome over and over. And it's not until you say, hey, I'm going to look at this differently. I know my mind's saying this ought to be this way. This person should not treat you this way. I'm going to look at this from, I understand what that is. That's a mental chatter. That's a mind pattern. That's a noise. And it's in the skepticism of what's going on that allows you to step out and look at something different. And it's not until you can look at something different than the way you already look at it that things can change.
Yeah.
Nothing can change without that change in perspective.
Well, things are always changing. We have nothing to do with change. But it's just what happens is if you don't allow yourself to go with the change, it becomes like a medieval torture device. Because you're holding on to something, but yet the change is pulling you this way. So now I'm being stretched. And that's the pain we experience. The pain we experience isn't because we're not changing. It's because change is happening, but we're not allowing ourselves to move in the direction of change. And we become stretched. The universe expands, which is the fourth law of change is the only constant, which replicates our understanding of what expansion is. And the more we allow ourselves to move in the direction of the expansion and then become comfortable with the unknown, this is when life becomes amazing. All right? We start now biologists are teaching us this, that what creates the idea of aging is repetition living. It really is. So if you're trying to live a secure life and every day you want this and that. What happens is the neurons in the brain say, okay, the body's going to do the same thing it did yesterday, so the cells then produce a weaker protein because it's efficient, so it's going to do that. And then the weaker protein, because it delivers out and it structures DNA, all of a sudden the chromosome, the telomeres on the chromosome start to break down. And all of a sudden it starts to unravel. But we start to move into the unknown and look at it. All of a sudden the brain's like, oh my God. The neural pathway is like, oh my God, we're doing something completely different. So then it signals the body to, and the cells to produce a stronger protein. And then with stronger protein, all of a sudden the body starts producing telamites. Telamites start to repair the telomeres that are broken. And then all of a sudden, not only we slow down the aging process, we have the capacity to actually create the reversal. Now, I haven't experienced that myself. And I don't even know if I slowed down the aging process because I only know what's here now. But I could tell you this. There's this feeling that runs through my body that I felt when I was 18, when I was 10, 5, that I feel now. It's this field of energy. The electricity running through the walls is the same way it runs through the copper wire as it always been.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
Consciousness.
Yes. What am I doing with the energy? What am I expressing with the energy? And if I have nothing to express, if I don't flick the switch on, guess what happens? That energy stops moving.
Stagnant.
Yeah, if I turn the faucet off on the water is stagnant. But if I keep it open, that's what I'm talking about. We want to keep it open to new things. Free flow into the unknown. And the unknown is where the brilliance of life is. That's where it is. That's where we are. The unknown is playing a new song on the guitar. That's the unknown. And this is what we're talking about. And this is what we encourage people to do. Shift your perspective into looking at this differently. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Mike's word for it. Take this and examine it with your own understanding. And then hang your hat on that. Don't hang your hat on me, my thoughts, or Mike's thoughts. Just like I've learned to not hang my thoughts on anybody else's, whether it's Socrates or even Jesus. But they've opened up a possibility of looking at the world we're in differently. And that's what they gave me. And that's what I'm going to expand upon. Because Jesus doesn't want me to still think the way he did 2,000 years ago. He wants me to think greater than he did. And everyone out there, think greater than even me and Mike. Because you are.
You're doing it right now.
You're doing it right now. And that's what we offer here at Perspective Shift.
Thanks for joining us tonight, guys.
Right. Peace.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Remember, hey, if you like what you do, subscribe down below.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care.